Hi guys, this is Bison, your host, and today you are about to witness one of Garry Kasparov's most incredible attacking masterpieces. Just when his opponent thinks the attack is under control, Kasparov unleashes a series of unbelievable moves that completely change the game. Let's jump straight into it. Okay, so game starts with d4, knight to f6. Kasparov starts the game with classical King's Indian defense. Knight to f3, g6, preparing for bishop to g7. And now Piket takes the center with c4. Bishop to g7, and you can see what he is preparing for. Knight to c3, and finally Kasparov castled. e4, preparing to push e5. So to stop this, Kasparov pushes d6. Bishop to e2, and finally Kasparov strikes in the center with e5, preparing for the typical King's Indian pawn breaks. And guys, this complete setup is known as orthodox variation. And finally Piket castles. Knight to c6. Kasparov puts pressure on the central pawn, but Piket's just advanced, and he's now attacking the knight. So knight goes to e7 and knight to e1. And as you can see, now this knight is likely to reroute to either d3 or f3. And also this opens the path for the f pawn, which can be pushed to f3, which supports the pawn, or maybe he can get aggressive with the move f4. Okay, so after seeing that, here Kasparov reroutes his knight to d7, and you can see now he is also ready for the attack. Bishop to e3. Piket just develops his dark square bishop. f5. Kasparov just straight goes for the attack. f3. He just defends it, but f4, and look at the f pawn of Kasparov. I mean, it's just getting aggressive. So bishop to f2, but then g5. And guys, just take a look at how aggressive black pawns are on king's side. So after seeing that, Piket also tries to create counterplay on the queen side with b4. So but Kasparov just brings his knight to f6, which indicates that he is now ready to push g4, supported by the knight and the bishop. So c5. Here Piket targets the pawn chain. So but he just goes according to his plan. C takes d6, c takes d6, rook to c1, and you can see he wants to play knight to b5 so that he can somehow bring his rook to the 7th rank. So to stop this, Kasparov brings his rook to f7, which first of all guards the 7th rank, as well as this bishop now can be rerouted to f8 so that he can defend this weak pawn. a4, bishop to f8, a5. Piket just advances, but bishop to d7, knight to b5, creating double attack on the a7 pawn, but g4, and just Kasparov attacks the pawn chain. Knight to c7, attacking the rook, but guys, instead of defending this, Kasparov just pushed his pawn further. And guys, just look how Kasparov g pawn just clashed with the kingside pawns, which is also targeting the bishop. And here the best move for white is to capture this g pawn instead of taking the rook. But instead, Piket decides to grab the rook with knight takes a8. And guys, that's a mistake. And basically his intention behind this move is he wants black to grab the bishop, so that after rook takes f2, queen takes a8, and then b5. And you can see now white has these strong passers supported by the rook, bishop, as well as the queen is also going to join. So that's why after knight takes a8, here Kasparov finds this amazing move, knight to h5. And you can see in the next move, queen to h4 is coming with the idea of queen takes h2 mate. So to defend this, first of all, Piket slides his king to h1, getting away from the threat. And after takes, rook takes f2, bringing the rook to guard the 2nd rank. But I think he forgot who is his opponent. And Kasparov reminds him by sacrificing his knight on g3. He completely wants to open the white king, and obviously one thing is clear, that white cannot capture the knight with the h pawn. This is because after f takes g3, you can see queen to h4 check is coming, and which cannot be saved. I mean, even if white king tries to run to g1, then queen to h4 with the idea of check and then mate. So let's say if bishop to d3, so that he can run through these squares, but now comes queen to h2 check, king to h1, and then knight to f4, closing the e2 square so that this king can't go there. And you can see now no one can stop this mate. So that's why after knight to g3 check, yep, so let me go back. So he just slides his king to g1, and finally Kasparov grabs the knight on a8. And guys, here Piket brings his bishop to c4, and guys, that's a great move. I mean, this move opens the second rank for the rook, which can come to a2 to support the connected pawns along with the bishop. But guys, here Kasparov plays a move that literally blew my mind. I mean, he plays a6, and guys, that's amazing. And I know some of you still want to grab this knight because now it looks like this queen is far away from the white king. Okay, so let's see if let's say h takes g3, then f takes g3, attacking the rook. And after this rook moves, let's say it goes to a2 to support these pawns. But now black can play queen to a7 check. And as you can see, now there are only 2 squares left for the king. And let's say if this king goes to suppose on h1, that will be a huge blunder, because in this position now black can play rook to f4 with the idea of rook to h4 mate, which cannot be defended. I mean, even if white tries to block the diagonal with rook to f2, then rook to h4 check, king to g1, and finally queen takes f2, and that's a mate. So that's why one thing is clear, that after queen to a7 check, this king can't go to h1. So the only move left for this king is to go on f1. But then black is going to first of all play bishop to h6, which attacks the rook. And let's say if he defends the rook, then rook to f4. And you can see what he is preparing for. So let's say if white king tries to run with let's say on e2. And now I just want you all to pause the video and just try to find the winning move for black. And guys, in this position, black can sacrifice his rook with rook takes e4, because the idea is to open the diagonal of this bishop so that this king can't run. Because if let's say f takes e4, you can see now this bishop covers the diagonal, and now black can play queen to f2 check, king to d3, and finally queen to a3, and that's a mate. Okay, so let me go back to the move a6. Yeah. So now the thing is, what's the best move for white in this position? And guys, here the best move for white is to play knight to d3, because even if let's say black goes for queen to a7, and now instead of capturing, here the best move for white is to just push h3, not getting into the trap. And now you can see there is no attack visible for white king. I mean, even if black slides his rook to g7, which eyes the king, but then king to h2, getting away from the file. And if knight to h4, queen to d2. So basically you can see this is better for black due to the placement of these knights and the rook and along with the queen. But as you can see, it's not so easy for black to continue the attack, because even if black makes a single mistake, it leads to an equal position. And I can prove this by, let's say if you are playing as of black, what will you play in this position? Okay, so the first move which I think most of us will consider is b5, which attacks the bishop. And let's say if a takes b6, then queen takes b6. And if queen takes b6, but then white can play queen to b2, which defends the pawn. As well as here white is also preparing for tactics. Tactics, yes, you heard it right. Let's see if black decides to develop his let's say dark square bishop to e7, and I don't think there is anything wrong with that, right? But guys, you know what white can play in this position? In this position, white can play knight to c5. The idea is after d takes c5, now white can push d6, a discover check by the bishop. And after king to h8, d takes e7, rook takes e7, b takes c5, queen takes c5, bishop takes a6. And suddenly you can see now this game is equal. Just imagine, a single mistake by black leads to this position equal. That's the beauty of chess. Okay, so in the game, after let me go back to the move a6. Yeah, so in this position here, Piket plays queen to d3, which is a mistake. And basically he wants to push b5, but Kasparov, just brings his queen to a7. He wants to play knight to h1 so that he can attack the rook. So to stop this, Piket pushes b5. His idea is to push this b pawn further so that he can block the diagonal of this queen. But Kasparov just takes on b5, bishop takes b5, knight to h1, and you can see what he's preparing for. So that's why Kasparov, so that's why Piket decides to take, but then queen takes f2. He grabs the rook, and here Piket decides to defend the bishop, but then bishop takes b5, queen takes b5, and in this position, the final move by Kasparov is rook to c7, and in this position, Jeroen Piket resigned. This is because, let's say if this game continues like queen to b6, so that black can give a check. So let's say if black gives a check with queen to f1, then queen to g1, but no need to capture the queen. I mean, he can just play queen to a6, which attacks the pawn. And let's say if white defends with rook to a1, then rook to c5. And you can see now no one can defend this pawn, and black has a passer on the b file. What a masterpiece by Garry Kasparov. I mean, the sacrifices, the calculation, and especially those incredible attacking ideas were simply out of this world. Like this video, and I will see you in the next one. This is your host Bison signing off. Bye bye.